Hello and welcome into another episode of the Reality Check with me, Matt O'Leary, and Jeremy Jets Chaos here on Talking Jets. Jeremy, how are you this afternoon?
I'm good. I'm good. Recovering, feeling a lot better, feeling a lot more hopeful. Monday night was rough.
It wasn't fun. Gonna tell you that much. I'm sure you felt the same way on the live stream. We talked at halftime, and it was like, they're not really out of it. They got to stop them on the first drive. They didn't. And then it kind of just fell off the rails from there. But I think 32-19 made it feel like the score is a little deceiving because I think it makes it appear closer than what it actually was.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I think it was much worse than it was. It was interesting that while saying that, there was a point in the fourth quarter where there was actually hope. We had the ball, it's 11, 12 minutes to go, and it was technically two scores.
That's true.
And I said, if we score here and get the 2-point conversion, we're within one score. Maybe we could do that with still 7-8 minutes left in the game. And then suddenly, I mean, I never believed it would actually happen, but I thought if we could score here and get the 2-point conversion, we could salvage calling it a blowout. We could have something to feel good about because we'll have scored another touchdown with the offense. And then it would, it just would have felt different. It would have felt very different. And to me, it was what was very upsetting. The most upsetting thing as far as except for the exception of the defense, obviously, and the defensive line and the run, not stopping the run. I was so upset at the 3rd and 1 call when there was about 7.5 minutes left in the game. And I'm like, hurry up, try to score. Like, try to score with time left so we can make it feel like a closer game and be within one score. And then they did that horrendously brutal running play call, that was so readable and so easy and predictable. And it was just disgusting to me.
Yeah, I don't know how in that situation. Why isn't Braylon Allen on the field, Jeremy? Like, why do you draft a 240-pound running back if you're not going to use him on 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 or on either of the 2-point conversion plays? Braylon Allen didn't get a touch until the final drive when it was Tyrod Taylor, and that was the first time he touched the football or saw the field even, which is just is baffling. And I think that's what we could, we're getting into the, week 1 overreactions and what that means going forward in this one. And eventually we'll, transition and get into talking about the week 2 here, but overreaction or valid concern with the play calling / personnel usage in week 1?
Oh, I don't think that's an overreaction. So there's certain overreactions I think there are, but concerns about the coaching, concerns about the personnel choices, no, I don't think that's an overreaction. I think that we have a right to be reactive to that.
Yeah, that one was definitely a surprise to me, as was the defensive line. I think the defensive line play in this game is what everyone's going to want to talk about, and I guess we'll start with that one really as being the big one. They got gashed in the run game. Christian McCaffrey was out. Backup running back comes in. Jordan Mason has the game of his life. They run for 180 yards as a team. Is this forever? Is this an issue in week 1 with Kyle Shanahan? Like, where's your head at with the defensive line and the run game?
I think it's perfectly acceptable to be angry, to be mad, to say what it was. It was brutal. It was ugly. It was gross to watch. It was all those worst things. It's not an overreaction to say all that. It's not it was because of this and because of that. Give them a break. No. They were disgusting. And but I think it's an overreaction to say that that's who they are and that's who it's going to be all year. And you see, that's why we need Reddick and we don't have a good defensive line. And they all stand.
The D line is horrific.
Yeah, the D line, so to me, the D line was horrific, right? I don't know that you could say from one football game, oh, that's the defensive line, and they're never going to play better, and that's what it is, and that's what it's going to be all year, because that's just not football. We have seen, if you've watched football for any amount of years, not just the Jets, other teams, players, teams, units, the wide receiving room or the running back room or the offensive line have had games where they look horrible, and then they've been fine and they look really good. It's one game. It's one game.
So for me, there's way too much positive Quinnen Williams and Jermaine Johnson tape for me to bail on this defensive line. You know, they've put too much good things on tape for me to be like, this line stinks. But there are some things that did concern me. Well, JJ, while I don't agree with his overall premise, he talks about them being small in the comments. We're way too small up front. Huge concern. What I worry about is when, like, Will McDonald playing close to 50% of the snaps in week 1. I don't think he's ready for that. Michael Clemens was in the high 40s in snaps. He's supposed to be the Jets' best run defending edge. I thought he really struggled in this game. So I think the thing that frustrated me was stuff we talked about, or stuff that was discussion points in the offseason, like losing John Franklin Myers in the offseason, what the run defense would look like, and then compounded with Bryce Huff isn't here, and also Hassan Reddick isn't here, and it didn't look great. I think that's why so many people are having such a strong reaction, and that's why, like, I was so frustrated with that game on Monday.
But Hassan Reddick had 3 tackles, 2 assists, like 2 assisted tackles and 1 solo tackle in his 4 last games last year. So I made this point on Twitter. He had 4 games with 0 sacks, zero pressures, 3 tackles. He was horrible on a stat line, if you look at his stat line, and he didn't play well in the last 4 games. So based on the logic that everybody's using, that means he stinks and he's not good, because we're talking about one game. Jermaine Johnson had a 38 rating, right? PFF rating for Monday night, right? So JJ had that rating. Do we believe that Jermaine Johnson's not a good defensive lineman because of that one game and that one performance? Right. Do we because he had a low rating last year at the end of the season, believe that Hassan Reddick is not a good defensive lineman? Like, we have to remember.
Apparently, I've seen a lot of people in my comments be like, well, he had those 5 tough games at the end of the year, so we got to throw out the 10 sack, which that just seems
right.
Seems crazy.
Right. You got to look at the whole picture, right? You got to look at the whole picture. And I don't think he's elite. I don't put him up with Nick Bosa and with Watts, but I also know he's an excellent player. Just like I know Jermaine Johnson's an excellent player, but I know that excellent players have bad games. And I think the fact that the entire defensive line struggled shows you that it was more than just an individual, they're not individually good kind of issue. It was a coaching scheme kind of issue. And we were playing a Super Bowl team in their stadium.
Kyle Shanahan's also an incredible offensive mind too. Like, I'm having, honestly, and I do want to talk through this. I want your feedback on it and what you how you feel on the subject. But I'm having a hard time being able to talk about how the 49ers are a good team. They're, being a Super Bowl contender. They have a really good coach, but also the Jets not being up to par. Like, I feel like there's a lot of black and white that we're seeing. Like, it's either everyone seems like, oh, the Jets got to pass because of how good the 49ers are, how good Kyle Shanahan is. And then you have the other side where it's all, well, the Jets were horrible. Salah stinks. The defense stinks, this and that. Like, I'm trying to bring up both points or talk about both points.
Yeah.
Because I think there's sides to both of those things that are true here.
And I think it is true. I think it's a balance of the two. And I think there is, yes, we should. I'm concerned about the defense. I'm concerned about our run stopping. Concern doesn't mean I'm convinced that we're not going to solve it or resolve it. Concern doesn't mean I believe our players, they stink, and that's who we are, and that's how you define us, and that's what it's going to be for the rest of the season, I think is an overreaction. But also to say it's because the Niners were good, we shouldn't be worried at all, is an underreaction. I think the truth is, as fans, we should be concerned. It looked horrible. It looked ugly. And and I think what it equates to is we should all be hoping and looking for them to look better next week.
Yeah.
And right. Because if they look horrible on Sunday, then the concern becomes deep concern. And if they look bad the next week, then it's complete panic. Like something happened and they killed the defensive line, whatever with the moves they made, who they didn't sign, and we've killed the defense. But like I'm concerned. But if I see them play really well against the Titans and we have a really great bounce back game and we shut the Titans down, I'm not totally feeling better, but I'm feeling better, but not completely, because there's still but that's the Titans. If we want to win a playoff game, if we want to beat Buffalo, we're also going to have to prove we could do it against very good teams.
Exactly. Yeti asks, can someone call Al Woods off the couch? 30 snaps, 10 games, 3 million. That's fair. Unfortunately, the guy tore his Achilles in the middle of the year last year and is almost 40 years old on the defensive line. That's a little bit different than like the Rodgers situation. So I think his career is over. Do you think he ever plays again?
I don't know. I mean, and we remember and I know I don't want to bring back bad memories. Remember how long it took Becton just to heal from a dislocation? Big men on those kind of injuries, on those soft tissues injuries, is very concerning. It's different than when it's a Breece Hall or a Mike Williams, like as far as like ACL, and then Achilles is even worse. Achilles is even worse. I mean, as much as they've come along in medical science and we've had some good success stories, the majority of players that tear an Achilles are never the same, that are playing positions that really require it. Like, for example, Aaron Rodgers, it's his non-throwing leg. I mean, so it was obvious he's going to lose mobility, but who cares? He was losing mobility anyway, versus a guy who has to plant his feet and his hand in the grass and push off and have incredible power and strength to move offensive linemen. And you're driving with your legs. And for a guy at his age, at his weight, an Achilles is a serious injury.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. I wanted to get your take on this comment from 𝐒𝐿𝐫𝐞. I want to say the defense is not good, and that's what's supposed to be our strength. I look at something like this and I go, how are we supposed to just throw out the last 30 games of sample after one game? Like, that's where I find myself skewing on the positive side and be like, well, we've seen them for the last 30 games. I understand that there has been some changes, but I'm going to need more than the point being, I'm going to need more than just the one bad game for me to be out on this defense.
Yeah. I mean, again, the defense was not good. To sit there and define them and say the defense is not good is just, and it might be a wording thing, and hopefully that's the way he means it. JJ right away said was and agreed with me, I think, in the chat. Like as soon as I made that little correction in the language we're using, it was one football game. It's just I don't know how you could watch this game, watch the sport, be a fan of this sport. We got a million examples. Kansas City lost to Detroit last year on their opening game. There are games in the last 3 years where Kansas City has not looked good, where their offensive line or the defensive line has not played well. But that didn't define them and they won the Super Bowl anyway. Like, it's one game. And yes, we should be concerned because it's our only game. It's our only evidence. So yes, I'm with you and I'm with everybody. I'm concerned, but I also know that we have 16 other games and it's really hard to judge a team and where the team is on one game.
Yep. That is totally fair. How about this take from Wesley? My take, I'm concerned that this means when we're in the playoffs in January, I hope we don't look that bad.
Yeah.
Now this is a concern that I can get behind because they have to show, and you said this too, they have to show it against the good team. We could be excited about a bounce back and a little bit of a run here over the next 4 games. We know what the schedule looks like. You have Tennessee, New England at home, then you got Denver after that, and then you're playing the Minnesota Vikings and Sam Darnold. You should win 4, but at worst 3 of the next 4. But let's say 4. Most people are expecting that's what it will be. You're sitting at 4-1. Got to feel pretty good about that. But again, you got to be able to show me against a team that's either been in the playoffs and has like this established culture like the 49ers do, or a good and up and coming team later on down the season. Like I'm thinking Houston sticks out to me. That's a team they beat up on last year. Can they show me that they could do it again this year and just other quality teams and defenses that they'll face?
Yeah, and if we're sitting here in 5 weeks at 4-1, my attitude's going to be there's going to be 2 sides of it, right? There's going to be the one side is is going to still be, okay, we still haven't done it against a team like the 49ers. We still have that part of us that knows we haven't proved we could do it against a great roster, a team that's very well coached, with very solid offense, and we still need to prove that. Are we going to be able to beat the big teams? But I want to say on the other side of the coin, even though those are weaker teams in the schedule, if we're 4-1, it is very important, and part of being a playoff team and part of being a team to be taken seriously is to learn how to win games you're supposed to win. And if we win 4 games in a row that we're supposed to win, it doesn't matter that we're supposed to win them. There's credit to that. There's celebration for that, because that means we're for real in the sense of, yeah, we were supposed to win those 4 games and we did. And the reason we were supposed to win them is because we're legitimately a playoff team.
Yeah, that's right. Like you got to take care of business and beat the schedule in front of you, and beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. So I'm with that on this. We're talking week 1 overreactions, and I don't know if this is based off of week 1, but just in general. JJ says, when do we stop calling Wilson a wide receiver 1? He hasn't shown it.
I think he showed it on Monday. I guess it's interpretation. We only had the ball 22% of the time. If we would have had the normal, if the normal 50-50 breakdown, it would have been double the plays. And if you look at his production and double the production, he dominated that touchdown drive, dominated. He was uncoverable.
What's the benchmark? I want to know what the benchmark is for a wide receiver 1 if Garrett Wilson's not a wide receiver 1.
Yeah,
if you put up 1,100 yards at the traffic cone, or 4 different traffic cones at quarterback, then I don't know. I don't know what the bar is then.
Yeah, I don't get it. And I'm not even using the excuse of, it's only 1 game. I don't think that Garrett Wilson was the problem at all Monday night. I mean, you can't, a wide receiver can only do so much. I mean, Tyreek Hill, look at his first half production in Miami on week 1. You're going to say he's not a WR1 because of his first half lack of production. I mean, Garrett Wilson really only had a half as far as the amount of possessions and opportunities. And I think he did fine in those opportunities. He got a little lax on that one play. He had a lot too much space to be out of bounds on that. He got a little too relaxed. He lost track of where he was on the field. But that has nothing to do with ability. And I'm sure that's the last time you're going to see that happen this season. But I don't know, if you watch that game and you watch when we were having a successful drive, when things were working, he was absolutely dominant. And he looked all the part of a WR1. And all of Lazard's success, people have to understand. Lazard playing well, right? JJ's comment is as extreme as saying, well, Allen Lazard is a top 10 receiver in the NFL, because you're basing it on 1 game. And the other thing we have to realize is Garrett Wilson is drawing the best coverage. He's drawing their best player. He's drawing the safety. He's drawing their best coverage, allowing Lazard to have the limited coverage that he's going against. And it's not taking anything away from Lazard. But when you see Lazard doing great things, when you see Mike Williams doing great things, understand that sometimes part of that is because of Garrett Wilson, because he's taking the best players away from covering them. It's kind of like if a wide receiver 2 on a team against us is doing well, and you say, well, the WR1 might not be doing anything, but that's because he has Sauce Gardner covering him.
Yeah, which is what happened in this game. Sauce Gardner was targeted twice and allowed 0 catches. He had a tough day against the run, and there was that weird scenario where he was out for like 9 plays. But it was crazy. Like I don't understand how everyone was like so quick. It felt like everyone was really quick to just bail on this defense after week 1. And there are still some concerns and some things I would like to see them change going forward. But the reaction was a bit strong for me.
Yeah, to me, it's I agree 100%. We should all be concerned. Like, we all should be angry about the way they played Monday night. Like, as fans, we deserve better. We waited for better. We expect better. We all should be concerned. Like, I think if someone says, I'm not concerned at all, I think that's a little ridiculous. And I think that's as ridiculous as saying we suck as a defensive line and we have no chance this year and we're going to suck this year. Like, I think both sides of that, like you said, black and white, way too extreme. The answer and the truth is somewhere in the middle.
I love it. Let's go to. I wanted to bring up our legend is in the chat. Neil, great Jets fan, hangs out with on all these shows. Says tired of cheap ass Douglas with the Walmart roster salary, and then makes reference later on to the Jets should be able to bump up Hassan Reddick to $25 million, which is has been a really big story today with Hassan Reddick. Where do you stand on that, just the situation as a whole between his side and the Jets side and all those negotiations?
I think we both agree that Hassan Reddick is a $23 to $24 million player, not an elite edge, but a very good one, and a very good edge costs you $20+ million. I think that we cleared $9 million in salary cap, not for Davante Adams, maybe for Davante Adams. Maybe it ends up that way, but I think we specifically were making room because I believe this fully. It's my opinion. I'm not saying it's fact, but I believe that we are fully and we're fully prepared to offer Hassan Reddick from the beginning a guaranteed like $24 million 1-year contract, and then negotiate on the side another option for a longer term contract for 2 years guaranteed kind of thing, right? With a 3rd year option. And I believe that what's really happening is all of this was under the agreement by the agent, by the player, and by us before the trade happened or when the trade happened, that he would show up to camp, and it would happen when he was in the building. When he was in the building as part of our team, because we wanted to see him come. We wanted to see him interact with the players, what he looked like in the locker room, how he was in the room with the coach, how he interacts with the coach. And we were totally willing to negotiate. He hasn't showed up. It's not about not willing to pay him. He hasn't showed up. And it was agreed that he would show up to have that negotiation.
Yeah, that's the part of it on the Reddick side where I think he's in the wrong. I'd like to add that I think Douglas has been a little bit, or the Jets side, whether you believe it's Douglas or Woody Johnson or whoever, I think the Jets' stance on this has been slightly stubborn. I think they've been a little bit too stubborn for me on this. Again, I'm not saying fold and give him $100 million contract over the next 4 years, but I think there's a way to bridge the gap and meet in the middle. This almost like wall of silence that goes up because he didn't report, I think is a little bit of a stretch. We did hear Connor Hughes said today on SNY, or the video was posted today at least, that that Douglas has talked with the agent for Hassan Reddick, or they've been in contact, which I guess that's a positive sign. I want to take that as or progress at least, but I just look at this, Jeremy, and I go, I have no idea. Like, I don't see when the end is in sight on this one.
Once you're willing to miss one paycheck, I think the next, I mean, he could come back at any moment because he doesn't want to miss another paycheck. But I think the next big line in the sand is, I think it's game 10. If he doesn't report by like game 10, then after that, he's bound to us for next year. So there's a chance he comes, like if it's game 10, if I'm not wrong, I think that's the next big line in the sand. Like, is he going to show up game 10 because he at least wants to free himself for next year? And if not, that truly is dying on your sword. Like, if he doesn't show up, if it goes that long and he doesn't show up for game 10 and basically gives us control over him for next year, that's dying on your sword, because next year it's only going to be worse, because now he's a year removed from playing and we've had more time to evaluate our talent and to replace, if needed, replace what he would bring. So it'd be, to me, that's the really dark line, is like, is he going to show up by the time that limit is there, that, that frees him up as a free agent for next year? And remember, as mad as we'll be and as much as we might miss him, if we're 7-3 and he joins the team week 10 and is great for us, right? And because he's playing for a new contract for some other team, he's auditioning and he's amazing for us, we'll probably forgive Joe Douglas and feel pretty good about it.
We might forgive him. I'm just nervous about it. I think the Jets are clearly better with him, and I just don't like playing these games and that it's bled over into the season. That's all. That's just the part that bugs me.
Yeah, it's never a good thing. I mean, and luckily the only salvaging part of this is he's never been in our locker room. He's never played for our team. It's much, much worse for the players and for the locker room when it's somebody that's been in battle with you and, at war with you side by side for games, for a season, for 2 seasons. So the one thing is that these guys have never been in a locker room with him before. So a little bit of that, we're spared that, but it's annoying. It's irritating and annoying to have this going on.
Neil later, I was just going back to Neil's comments. I saw this one. Matt and Jeremy better show up at T-Squared Sunday. Let's go. JETS, Jets. So Jake Asman's doing a watch party in the city. I know Jeremy's gonna have to fly across country for that one, but I know he'll be in attendance for the week 4 game. Actually, we'll talk about that one in a second. But I was asked to do a watch party in New Jersey. So I'm actually making the trip over to New Jersey. I'll be at the beach gallery. Doors open at 12. It should be a lot of fun. It's at Keansburg, New Jersey. You go on their website, tbgnj.com to RSVP. It's free to get in. You don't have to RSVP. You're just guaranteed a spot. If you do RSVP, it should be a good turnout. And I don't make my way over to New Jersey very often. Most of the events I do are Long Island based. So I was glad to see Neil, obviously, at the draft party. We had a great time. But if you're in New Jersey and looking for a place to watch the game, that's where I'll be on Sunday.
Who are they? Like you say, they asked me to be who?
The owner of the beach gallery is a big Jet fan. So he knows all our stuff. So there's a chance that he's the beach gallery owner, Derek, is watching right now. I hope he is, because I'm excited to see
maybe
him.
One day if I hit 10,000 subs, I'm only at 5,000, but if I hit 10,000, maybe one day he'll want me to come and be the host of his watch party.
We'll get you out there, man. We'll fly you in. How about that?
The difference with me is I'd be broadcasting with Green Bean while I'm there. I'd be on a computer broadcasting.
Yeah. Headphones on, staring at the computer. Oh God. I don't know how you guys do the broadcast in game for the 3 hours. It's tough.
Dude, when they sucked, it didn't really matter that much. Like I didn't realize like what it was going to be like when it started to matter. Like once it started to matter and they had a winning record, before last, 2 years ago, like when we were actually 6-2 or whatever. That's when I realized, what did I get myself into? Because now that it matters, and now that I believe they can win and compete, it's so difficult to have to be everybody watching you watch them when you care. Like when they stunk, who cares? Like we were all just bitch and joke around together. But now I have to contain myself and my lunacy and my craziness. It's not easy.
Yeah, or sweating out. My favorite is going back to week 1 last year. All your guys' reaction to Rodgers going down. The Garrett Wilson Green Bean's reaction to Garrett Wilson's touchdown might be my favorite clip of anything we've ever done in the 5 years we've done this.
That was the best. That was it was amazing. It was such a weird emotional thing, right? I mean, we had to do the rest of this game. We had to do an entire game with this horrible, painful pit in our stomachs. We couldn't lay down. I couldn't yell, fuck it. I wanted to normally, if it wasn't for that, if it was normal, I would have went into my backyard and just been screaming, just letting it out.
You got it.
Yeah. I mean, it was just him going down was just the biggest slap in the face. I don't have to tell anybody out there. Any Jet fan knows what a slap in that face was, especially a guy like Neil, who's been around for a while. And we've had this, we're reliving this from Testaverde to Pennington to, we've just lived through this so much of injuries, ruining our chances and destroying our dreams.
Yeah, and it did last year, but Rodgers was able to get through this game and played well. I'm going to take that one as a positive. I know we've been a lot of negative on this show in the first half, and we still, we got a lot to get into. The chat's cooking today. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. But I thought Rodgers' play in this game was something positive that I'm taking over to week 2. You agree?
Yeah, well, and also that's why I couldn't understand the Garrett Wilson comment, because to me the takeaway was, wow, when we get this right and we're not our defense is not stuck on the field, we don't have these bad mishaps like the fumble, things that won't normally happen when it's just a regular game. Oh my God, look at our offense. Look what we look like with Rodgers throwing a Wilson, with Rodgers throwing a Lazard, because Lazard is a different player with Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. I go, this is crazy how good it's going to look. And I think we all know that Breece Hall and our running game is going to pick it up. This offense will start to gel, and it's going to be amazing. It's like that hasn't changed. It's disappointing we had to start the year like that. And it's disappointing we had to play that defense and to play a team like that game one. But man, in the next few weeks, and it'll be a disaster if it doesn't happen. And I'll be the first one jumping off a building. But like I think it's going to be really fun to watch this team and this offense in the next few weeks. And I think we're all going to be feeling a lot better when we get the opportunity to do it.
I really hope that's the case, that this week is just the bounce back week. The get right game, is a tough one, but I don't think it's going to be a complete walk in the park either for this game. Because, well, they ran the ball, they being Tennessee, ran the ball really well against Chicago. They had 140 yards on the ground. They averaged over 5 yards a carry. So maybe that's a good way to start the transition into week 2 and beyond for this team. Clearly, Jets had run issues or stopping the run in week 1 against San Francisco. Then Tennessee also had a really good run game in week 1. Is that going to repeat in week 2 now against Tennessee? What's your feel?
Well, I mean, at least, I mean, if they do, then like we said, the concern goes up to extreme concern, and this is a real problem that's no longer, it's just one game. But what you just said makes me feel a little bit better. If we have a great game and we are very effective stopping the run, then when people say, but it was Tennessee, we can make the argument, but they had 140-yard rushing against Chicago. They have one of the greatest offensive line coaches of all time in Callahan. I mean, so maybe we shouldn't dismiss a good performance if we show up and we stop the run.
Yeah, that's fair. And they have a really damn good offensive line coach. We know that Bill Callahan's a very good offensive line coach in Tennessee. And Tony Pollard had success in week 1 and Tajay Spears as well. The one area where I think the Jets are going to benefit, even with their issues against the run right now, the comparison between Brock Purdy and Will Levis. Brock Purdy is like the epitome of a plus game manager. And I don't mean game manager as like derogatory towards Brock Purdy. I think he like does his job, executes it well for Kyle Shanahan. Will Levis is frankly out of control. He's gonna give you some turnovers, man. He threw one of the worst interceptions that I've ever seen in the pick 6 that pretty much ended the game. He has 10 starts, and in his 10 starts has 8 fumbles and 6 interceptions. So I think the Jets will be able to steal some possessions and hopefully go up early in this game, which forces the Titans to throw. And that feeds into what the Jets are wanting to do.
Well, yeah, we need our offense to score points right away and put the pressure, right? Apply pressure, and force them to pass. But I'll say this. If you want to know what will infuriate me and like above all else, what would it take for me to abandon Robert Saleh and say he's not the answer? If he doesn't take these next few weeks and be willing to adjust and understand and take the Bill Belichick concept of when you have a quarterback that you don't believe is a great quarterback for whatever reason, because they're young, they're not ready yet. Guys like Will Levis, guys like Bo Nix, you stack the box and you force that quarterback to beat you. If we don't stack that box and if we don't make it a priority, and we just play our normal space defense that allows them to run, I'm going to be so angry because we can't. This is the year we have to win. This is our window. You cannot play this, our system, we're sticking to it game. If you see that a team doesn't have a good quarterback or has a young, unexperienced quarterback, and their strength is their running game, you must take the running game away from them. And if we're lining up and not stacking that box, I'm going to be that's when you're going to see me lose it with this coach and finally be off board with him.
There's no excuse to have like literally 8 or 9 guys in the box. Like what teams would do last year against Zach Wilson. It was, we know how good Breece Hall is. We're going to dare you to beat us with Zach Wilson or Trevor Siemian or Tim Boyle. And after a while, guess what? It was very, very challenging for that Jets offense to beat anybody. Once they did that. So that has to be the recipe. And you're right. The coach, I am trying my best to hold out. I don't know if it's hope or just full judgment before we see what happens this year when he has the real quarterback, but something that he has to improve on, and that does drive me absolutely nuts, is he, in a way, similar to Joe Douglas, I think, but he is very like stubborn in his ways. Like he's got to do it his way, and it's got to work his way. And you have to be able to adjust based on what the other team is showing. So in this circumstance, yeah, I know he doesn't love to stack the box. Usually he likes to play a lot of nickel, this and that. I don't know how you don't have the extra linebacker on the field. Don't put Chuck Clark goes down towards the line of scrimmage as well and make Will Levis beat you over the top.
Yeah, no question. Challenge him. You have Sauce Gardner, for the love of God. You have DJ Reed. Challenge him. Make him beat those cornerbacks. Make him force us out of the box. Like every team did to us when we had Zach Wilson and freaking the cast of rejects that backed him up.
What a time. What an absolute time. I like this one from Dakota. It says the Jets are going to put out the Tennessee Titans like Neil Cigar. So he's confident that Dakota's confident that the Jets are going to be able to stomp out the Titans. I think they should win this game. There are the heat under Robert Saleh's seat's going to get cranked up to 1,000,000 if he doesn't win this game. Talk about a must win. I know it's week 2 and that feels like very dramatic, but I don't think it is. I think the Jets and Saleh got to win this game on Sunday.
No, I understand that mathematically it's not a must win, and I understand that it's not impossible for a team to come back from 0-2, but it's a must win. I mean, at the same time, it's a must win. If we can't beat Tennessee, then it just uncovers something so much bigger than just one game. Then it becomes this thing of, oh my God, like we are wasting away this roster because we know we have talent on this roster. And we have to win that game. This fan base is going to implode. I'm going to implode. I'll admit it. I can't handle not winning this game. Like it's in my mind, it's a must win. For I don't know what'll happen to me if it doesn't. I don't know how I'll be able to live the next week of my life. I really don't.
It's going to be a really tough week. Well, it's a quick turnaround too, because home opener's on Thursday. We're going to go through a lot of emotions from Sunday to Thursday that week. That's what I would think.
Yeah.
We got Nose Kills hanging with us. He sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, Nose Kills, for the support. He goes, random fact. The last time Breece Hall fumbled on a pass play was his first NFL game. The guy that punched it out, Chuck Clark.
Oh.
Wow. I was there. Jeremy, were you at that one too? Was that the first time we met?
Baltimore was the first time we met in person. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jets Ravens. That was the first time I met this.
Yeah. That was the first time. That was the time I walked up to you. I said, shit, you really are tall.
Yeah, you did what everyone else does whenever we meet.
That's when I got down and I took a picture of you from that angle and I put it on Twitter and I was like, I just got attacked by a giant.
That was also fantastic.
Yeah.
Although I will say you are definitely taller in person than you give off when you're on camera, if that makes you feel any better.
Yeah, no. I'm because when people say, oh, you look like the Penguin, I'm like, and then I thought about what Green Bean said. He goes, yeah, because people imagine you this short, stocky, round guy. And
not the case.
Well, now it's going to get worse for people because I've already lost 24 pounds and I'm losing much more. And I'm like in a year from now, I'm going to be back to my lean college self. So no one will call me the Penguin.
I love that. He's going to be out. He's going to be ready to go. Sign him up. 1-day contract, baby.
Yeah. That's why I'm coming to try out for the Jets. That's why I'm losing all this weight.
Yeah, there we go. Tony Alexio, though, points out to the Titans having a better coaching staff. I think the best coach they have is their offensive line coach, but their head coach is extremely unproven. This is his second game that he's ever coaching. So I don't know if that's a definitive or not.
Yeah. I don't know if that, I mean, when you have an unproven coach, I'm not going to say that, but I think what Tony Alexio, I think his perspective is coming from, he's going to call any coaching staff better than our coaching staff because he's really down on Robert Saleh.
Oh, okay.
So if you don't believe in Robert Saleh, and I'm not criticizing, everybody turns on coaches at different times. Just because someone turns on a coach before me doesn't mean they're wrong, and I'm not going to fight with them. I'm going to say, oh, I still have hope. They're already in that place where they've given up on that coach. But obviously, if you've given up on your head coach, you feel like every other team's coaching staff is better than yours. Yeah.
Soon you'll look like the Monopoly guy.
Well, when I'm thin and I shave, I go back to being just Dr. Evil.
Dr. Evil.
or Mr. Clean. You know, the clean guy, Mr. Clean. Yeah.
Mr. Clean. That's a good one. That's a really good one. Fair question from our guy, Yeti here. It says, Jeremy, does the diet mean less food reviews?
The less food reviews right now on the channel is because my family is, processing and stuff. And it's different on that channel because we're a family. So we had a big loss and we kind of shut the channel down a little bit. We're taking some time until we all feel ready. But no, I kind of think that food reviews, first of all, you don't have to eat the whole thing.
True.
I have a cheat day every week, so I could just film, or when I'm in New York, I cheat for a couple of days because I'm in New York. But also there's healthier food that you can eat and review. Like my idea was like one of the things we're doing is we're reviewing all gluten-free food that my wife eats, because we realize there's a lot of gluten-free, celiacs out there that would be interested maybe in watching a review about a restaurant that has gluten-free food. So no, when we get back churning again, there'll be reviews. You just might see me reviewing, the chicken sandwich.
Yeah, the grilled chicken, not the fried chicken.
The grilled chicken sandwich with a pineapple and teriyaki sauce on it or something.
Now we're talking. Tim has a super chat as well. Thank you, Tim, for your support here. It says, you must earn the right to rush the passer by stopping the run first. And I think that's true too. That's mostly true. I'm going to say I like 90% agree with that. The point that I would bring up is that because I've heard that said a lot about week one in this week one game, but in the opportunities the Jets had to rush the passer, they didn't do a really good job. But yes, normally you earn the right by you go ahead, you go ahead, you get a lead, teams are behind, they have to throw to get back into it, and then that's when you really pin your ears back and go. But even still, at times, like they couldn't get off the field on third downs when it was passing situations because no one was getting home. And also, they were getting gashed in the run game too. We're not ignoring that part, but they also, when they did have their limited opportunities, didn't do enough either.
Right.
Agree? Disagree?
I agree. No, I feel like it was. I mean, look at the PFF grades of every defensive lineman except for Quinnen. It was ugly, and that actually gives me hope, though, that it's not about, oh, Tack can't play. Tack was overrated. McGregor is horrible. He can't play. Or Will McDonald's a bust. The fact that they all played poorly, including Jermaine Johnson, tells me this was a team thing. This was a scheme thing. This was we were unprepared as a team kind of thing. Or, if you will, in that case, when you hear that also falls on the coaching staff. So that I'm going to hold judgment on individual players. I'm not going to make any decisions about anybody based on that game. Because remember, if your decision is Will McDonald's a bust and Tack is overrated and not a good player based on that one game, then you also must feel that Allen Lazard is an elite top 6 wide receiver in the NFL. Because based on this one game, that's what he is.
That's true. I mean, hey, he was getting picked up like crazy in my fantasy leagues.
Yeah. I mean, based, on this pace, based on what he showed on Monday night, Allen Lazard is 34 touchdowns, 1,500 yards receiving, and about 120 receptions.
Nice. Sign me up for that, baby.
Yeah. So, I hope, I'm not doing that to like be obnoxious or like, people get mad. Oh, that's stupid. No, I'm just trying to give perspective, right? If if you're going to say that a player who performs really bad, that's who they are and that's their identity forever, then why is the reverse not true? Like, why does one great game not make them who they are forever?
Yeah. Which again, a valid point to bring up in all of this. How about Dirty Jesus has a comment. I'm starting to feel like the dopey ex that takes back the abusive partner for the 9th time. She promises she will be different this time and she doesn't change a thing. Fair or unfair? The Jets going to make any changes and make it worth it this year?
I believe they're going to. I think it's too early to judge whether they're doing it to us or not. Like, I know the feeling, and believe me, I felt it. I'm not oblivious. I'm like every other Jet fan. I felt it. I felt the same old Jets feeling. I felt that pit. I felt that scarring, that abuse that we take as Jet fans. I felt every bit of it. But after a couple days calming down, I still have hope and believe. And, you know, the best thing is this guy, BM Mac or whatever, he's Jake Asman's channel. He's one of the guys who call in all the time. He's actually a Green Bay Packer fan. And he said something really insightful. He said, if you were somebody who believed the Jets were going to go 13-4, that means you agreed that they were going to lose 4 times.
Yeah.
Well, you got your first loss. You know?
Right. He's right, though.
Yeah. 13-4 means you had to lose a game. And we have to lose 3 more. On those weeks, we're going to think, oh, this team is not good enough and we can't win the Super Bowl. But overall, how many Super Bowl teams have won the Super Bowl after having, 12-4 seasons or 13-4 seasons or 12-5 seasons? The New York Giants did it twice in the last 15 years after having 10-6 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, and teams have started slow in the past and got hot and finished strong. Rodgers, his last few years in Green Bay, they started 0-1, got blown out in week 1, and then went 13-3 in the regular season.
That's another positive sign for us, by the way, that Rodgers is notorious for having very bad starts to the seasons. Like, he's very bad on opening day throughout his career.
That's true. That's very true. So turn around in week 2. Tim is back with another super chat. We appreciate you, my friend. This is why you play starters in the preseason. You cannot simulate running the ball and stopping it in practice. I think maybe there's more of a case to play the defense in the preseason than there was the offense. And I know the offensive line didn't look great in the run game, so maybe I'm contradicting myself there, but there's clearly concern with, losing Rodgers or Tyron Smith or some of the other veterans that are working back and coming back from injury. But I think Tim has a point with the defense and stopping the run there. Do you agree? Was that maybe a mistake not to play the starters in the preseason at all?
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Maybe we should have, and maybe it would have been better. But if they had a couple of drives, though, I mean, would that have made the difference? I don't know. I'm not saying it definitely wouldn't have, but we also don't know that Sauce Gardner wouldn't have tore his Achilles. And then what would we all be saying?
Then they shouldn't have played. Yeah.
Right. So, and of course, because when you make the decision not to play, those bad things that could have happened don't happen. So you don't get the other side of the argument. I was very in the middle. I'm not strongly opposed to one side or the other. I'm not going to passionately argue that we should have played them, and I'm not going to passionately argue that we shouldn't have. I'm just going to say it is what it is. They did what they did. And if it did affect this game, then it affected this game. There's no excuse and no argument can be made that it would affect the next game. Like, we can't say if they lose to the Titans, it's not because they didn't play a few series in the preseason. I think we could all agree on that.
I agree. I'm with you on that one. A few more. We got time for a few more in here as well. Harlan is very much so on the positive side. He says this is an overreaction to the Jets loss. I think some of it has been an overreaction, but I think if we're just completely punting it off and going, well, it's the 49ers, Jets don't have a chance to go on the road against the 49ers. No, then you're not serious about being a Super Bowl team. Like, it can't be to the extreme of, oh my God, like the Jets aren't who we thought they were. But at the same time, you can't go, well, how are they supposed to go on the road and beat the 49ers? I don't know. If they're a good team, that's what you do sometimes. You win games you're not supposed to on the road and look like, you show up and look like you can play. So again, I think the truth probably falls somewhere in the middle. I picked the Jets to win 11 or 12 games this year. San Francisco was one I thought they would lose. I wish they were more competitive in the game. And I think that's really where the issue is for a lot of fans, is because for most of it, they weren't competitive enough.
I want to say, definitely, we both agreed ahead of the game. We both said the one thing we don't want is to not be competitive. The one thing I will say, though, is if you remember, if you're comparing it to past years, in past years, we wouldn't even have one drive. There was an 8-game stretch last year where we didn't even have a drive. It was 1, 2, 3 and out. It was historically the worst offense in the history of the NFL. Think about that. People were comparing it and saying, making arguments that it was as bad as any offense in the history of the NFL. We were watching games where we went 1, 2, 3 and out every single drive. I understand it looked ugly, and I'm pissed that we went 3 drives in a row, 1, 2, 3 and out, and it lost us this game, or part of the reason we lost this game definitely can't be ignored. But as bad as that was, we had touchdown drives, we had good plays, and we saw a glimpse of what it could look like, and we didn't have that in the past. So it is different. It sucks that we lost. It sucks that we weren't more competitive, but that doesn't mean there was nothing positive that you could take out of that game.
Yeah. How about Johnny Boy's question? Question for the panel. Will both the Jets and the Mets make the playoffs this year? I'm thinking yes. I'm back in on the Mets, man. I'm in.
I think the way they won that game yesterday, when you know, they're a weird, funny team. They'll lose a game where they're winning 3-0 and they'll give up 4 runs in the bottom of the 9th and make you think this team just has no shot. But then they'll win a game where there's a no-hitter going and Lindor hits a home run and then they score 6 runs. I think that it's a very, very good chance that they both make the playoffs. I still think the Jets have a better chance than the Mets.
Yes, I agree with you there. Jets have a better. There's just too many teams mixed in, and the Braves are still in the mix. There's a world where both the Mets and the Braves make the playoffs too. By the way, if a team
we caught up to the rest of the pack. San Diego's starting to struggle. So, and we've seen San Diego be just as a heartbreaking organization to their fans as we've been to, if the Mets have been to us.
Now, this is very, very true.
Yeah.
Got a few more in here. Okay. Dano says, question for half of the panel. How bad was it losing to Danger Zone to start your fantasy season? So for those that don't know, Connor Long, who I am doing pregame shows or pregame lives with this year, created a fantasy channel for fantasy league for people who have Jets YouTube channels. I lost to Dano in week 1. My team did not have a very good game. I'm looking to bounce back in week 2. Who do I got this week? Who am I playing? Hopefully Gunny or someone like that. Someone I know. I think I am playing Gunny.
Hopefully who is Gunny.
I can't even see whose team matchup. Jets gal. I'm playing Rivka from Jet X Factor. So there we go.
Okay.
Bounce back. Dano, you got me.
If I had to play against Green Bean, man, the problem would be the smack talk would be just relentless. It would be never ending. Can you imagine playing Green Bean? Oh,
yeah.
It's my tight ends, man. I start 2 tight ends.
I got the second tight end in the flex.
I got a tight end in the flex.
Freddie Carr's not happy. He goes, enough of this shit. We lost 32-19. He's down bad. That's it. The season's over.
It takes some people longer to recover than others, but maybe it'll take maybe if we're 4-1, Freddie will feel better.
I hope so. I hope he feels better. I hope the Jets kick the shit out of. Sorry for the language. Kick the shit out of the Tennessee Titans this week, and then we're all much better vibes. Much better vibes.
I think it typically takes one game. Like if we look amazing, if we're scoring touchdowns and Rodgers goes crazy and Brees Hall, if the whole thing if we just blow them up, I'm not saying we will, but if we blow them up and just blow them out, I think that we for sure will. It'll make everybody will feel a lot better for sure.
Johnny Boy's got a serious one now. He says, what player on the Jets are you expecting this week to have a huge impact on the game? Is there anyone sticking out to you in your mind who you think who maybe was a little quiet in week 1 or just will make a big impact?
Okay, I just want to quickly say before I answer this question, I think it's funny that, Johnny, think about who you have to be as a person, that when you're asking a question, you have to say serious question to have people read it as a serious question. I'm sorry, I just had to bust his chops. I think there's 2 players. I'll give you one on each side of the ball. I think it's Jermaine Johnson on the defensive side of the ball.
Okay.
And I think it's Brees Hall on the offensive side of the ball.
I like both of those answers. Both guys were underwhelming in week 1. On the defense, Jermaine was someone that crossed my mind, but I'm going to go Quinnen Williams. I think him on the interior of the defensive line is going to have a big day against the weaker Tennessee front. And then offensively, Brees is a really good answer, but I'll go Tyler Conklin. I'll say they actually involve the tight end a little bit more. I know we missed this chat, just too much flying around, but I think it was Johnny who asked it anyway. Why the Jets didn't use the tight ends in week 1, and I don't know. I think Tyler Conklin would be very good to utilize in this offense as a pass catcher.
I mean, I believe the reason they gave, like, we had the ball 20% of the time. We only ran 49 plays. Situation doesn't sometimes call for it. The only problem with that is my argument to that is bullshit. Why did you go run, pass 4 series in a row? Like, why didn't you on second down go with the 12 package and throw to Conklin instead of running the ball for the 15th time when they clearly had us dialed and it wasn't working? Like, why didn't you slide Conklin out and try something different? So as much as they say, I know a lot of it was situational because we didn't run a lot of plays, but at the same time, there's no excuse for how come on 2nd and 9 or 2nd and 8, you just let it be 3rd and 6. Like, you just played this, you did the same thing over and over again, and that's what gave us that middle of the game slump, the 2nd and 3rd quarter. That's what blew up on us, is that we were just run, pass. And it's the most uncreative, uninventive crap. And that's why, and that was the situation where you could have used Conklin or you could have used Malachi Corley. And if you had plays written up for him, something other than just running into their wall, because that's what they put up against us, a wall.
While you were talking, I was looking for this screen cap because Joe Caparoso tweeted it out. I like him, his coverage. Follow him at Badlands and Turn on the Jets. Look at this formation. We talked about this earlier, but this is the 3rd and 1. Rodgers in the shotgun.
Unbelievable.
Conklin next to him. Brees Hall behind him. And Allen Lazard in motion. What do you think they're doing there? That could not be an any more scripted A-gap run.
Right.
If you tried.
Right.
Everyone in the world knows that ball's going to Brees Hall.
I know. And the fact we knew it was, and then what made it worse is they did. That was what the worst part of it was. I was like, can you imagine if they did this crazy play fake where he pulled the ball out of his gut, out of Brees Hall's gut, turns around, the 2 receivers, one guy, the tight end takes off, and all of a sudden we're completing some well-designed pass, like right for the first down. How incredible that would have been. And it was like, but yet deep down, he showed run to Brees Hall, and they actually did it. And look at the game situation. We needed 2 touchdowns. We were running out of time. So you ran a play that you knew was going to cost us a minute. Do you really want to get 1 yard, get the first down, and cost us a full minute? I mean, it's pretty much a minute. You can't give up that in this part of the game. If you're serious about trying to win the game, you have to pass it, and you have to give the receiver an opportunity to get out of bounds. You have to.
Yeah, that was one of more of their shocking play calls. I was watching at home, and Taylor she's a Jets fan. Her dad's a huge Jet fan, but she's asked a lot of questions during the game, and like I give her commentary kind of on like things that are happening. So because she genuinely wants to learn and know more about football. So when this formation came out, I go, oh my God. I'm like, they're gonna run the ball with Brees Hall. And she goes, how do you know? And like, but this is all happening in the seconds before the snap. I said, they have their tight end lined up next to Aaron Rodgers, and they sent Allen Lazard, their big run blocking wide receiver, in motion. I said, they are running it left, right behind the left guard. And what do you know? They did exactly that. If me, a fool at home watching Monday Night Football, drinking bourbon and choking down chicken wings can point that out, then I think the San Francisco 49ers know it.
Yeah. And the fact that we all called it out. Green Bean called out Frankie because we were there with Frankie. So you knew that wasn't getting by Frankie because he calls out every alignment as it's happening. And Frankie was like, are you kidding me? We're running into Brees Hall. Like Frankie literally said it before the ball was snapped. He said, oh my God, we're running into Brees Hall. And we're letting them know that we're running into Brees Hall. We're telling them we're running into Brees Hall. I mean, it's crazy. It's almost like Saleh went up to him and said, you're my old coach. You're like a big brother to me. You're my best friend. You know what? We got an easy schedule after this, so I'm going to just give you the game. That's what it felt like. We're going to just give you the game.
Yeah. We tried. But also not the time obviously plays a factor, but that would have been one of the circumstances where like I don't know. Maybe I'm putting Olu in the game as the third tight end, and I have Braylon Allen in the backfield that's going to get me the yard other than Breece Hall. Like, do you have to ram Breece Hall into the line of scrimmage 20 times when he clearly doesn't have it? I don't know. It was just strange.
And why wasn't it Allen at that point? And how much? And even for the argument of Allen, obviously is giant back, powerful back, and how much do you want to beat up Breece Hall game one anyway? Didn't we get Allen and didn't we get Isaiah Davis? Didn't we draft 2 running backs for the purpose of not having Allen have to take all of the beating on a game where he's taking the beating? If you're going to run such a stupid play, at least do it with a guy who's fresh, who's super powerful and strong, who's got much more power, much more strength and size, and let him be the one to do it.
Frustrating. Very frustrating. Well, we went over an hour on this one. We got a little fired up at the end with some screenshots of Nathaniel Hackett offenses. But Jeremy, you know what? I have a really good feeling that when we're doing this show a week from now, well, good news. We'll be doing it a week from now with another game happening that night. So we'll have the Titans to recap, and then we'll be able to talk about the New England Patriots, who they'd be playing in a few hours.
It's so cool how different it's going to be next week. We're going to be literally talking about the Titans game, knowing if we improved and what the run defense looked like, knowing how the offense looks a little bit more. You're right. And previewing a game that's going to be in a few hours. We're going to be in a different world a week from now.
Yeah, that's so true. Like what we're feeling and thinking right now is going to be very, very different, because it's either going to be, all right, you got back on track, you won, let's keep it riding at 1-1. Or if God forbid they lose this game and are sitting at 0-2, we are just going to scream for an hour and say, you better beat the bleeping Patriots on Thursday night.
And there'll be people in the chat, rightfully so, that says, even if we beat the Pats, I'm still not convinced. Yeah. Like, if we're 0-2 and we're saying we better beat the Pats, there might be people in the chat saying it doesn't matter, we're still not a playoff team. Like, that have already given up and are already pissed and saying, yeah, we beat the Patriots. So what? We'll be 7-10 again this year. That's how people are going to be. So, yeah, crazy. But true. Hey, another thing, there was just something less ugly or something disturbing or just less ugly about the chat today. The chat was just so much better looking and so much smarter and wittier. I don't know. This week was just different than last week. I really appreciate the chat this week.
Oh, there we go. I love that. A little compliment to the chat.
Yeah, great job, guys.
Hat tip to the chat today. Guys, that'll do it. We'll be back next Thursday. Make sure to subscribe here on Talkin' Jets. We got the regular show. We'll be back on Tuesday. You got all the side shows going now on Monday and Thursday. I believe Green Bean and Tigo will be back on Wednesday as well, which I'm excited for that. That's going to do it. I'm Matt. He's Jeremy, and we'll catch you next time.